I have triumphed over the evil virus. Yes, 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 eat it. Hey guys, I am just celebrating the fact that my computer finally seems to be functioning again. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about a variety of topics that may have cropped into my mind over the last several century or ago. Or, oh yeah, I forgot. I was going to talk about Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, which, for the life of me, I think is probably one of the worst movies I've paid $8 to see recently. Oh dear God, where to begin? Where to begin is so effing bad. Alright, first off, I love Tim Burton. I am probably the biggest Tim Burton fanboy you're likely to run into. I haven't seen Planet of the Apes, but I did have to endure the god-awful Sleepy Hollow, so I know personally from experience that Tim Burton does not always direct the best movies. However, about 2 or 3 of his movies are within my top list, so, you know, I had a natural assumption in my mind that, oh, Tim Burton and Alice in Wonderland, what a great combination. I mean, that match seems like something out of heaven. Like somebody just came in and said, you know what would be awesome? Tim Burton directing Alice in Wonderland. God came down and said, behold, mere mortals, I have found you a fanboyish thing to fangasm about. And then you sit down, and it starts off kind of like seems to go along the lines of Hook. You're kind of taking this old fairy tale kind of, not fairy tale, but this old story basically, and you're putting a new twist on it. And you're taking them in lead, and you're aging them up, and then you're going to have them return to this magical land that they have no memory about. The problem in this particular case is that unlike Hook, Tim Burton doesn't really have the same grasp of human emotions that I think Steven Spielberg does. I can argue about Hook all day long, because I know that movie is very polarizing. Not everybody loves it, but it's a personal childhood favorite of mine, and I couldn't help but keep drawing comparisons between that and Alice in Wonderland. You have this 19-year-old Alice who's living in this very Victorian sort of setting, and then she follows the white rabbit down the rabbit hole, and everything seems to be pretty much in order to do pretty much a new take on the Alice in Wonderland story. The thing is, once you get down there, everything pretty much goes to shit, as I would put it. For one thing, the CGI is not very good. I've heard people say that the movie looks stunning, and some of the settings are cool. I will admit that. Some of the settings and some of the character designs are definitely standoutish. You have the Cheshire Cat, which I personally think looks awesome from a design standpoint. Every time the Cheshire Cat was on screen, I was enchanted by the way it shifted in and out, the way it had bits of its body disappearing. You know, it's exactly what you would expect out of a big budget Alice in Wonderland. Other things, not so much. There's some really, really obvious CGI horses in this movie. And I know it's Wonderland. It's supposed to look zany, but it looks like a bad Pixar experiment 90% of the time. No offense to Pixar, of course, but gosh darn it. You could at least try to make it not so much of an eyesore in some spots. When she first enters into Wonderland, I just couldn't help but think, wow, this looks so bland and uninspired, and just the color scheme just doesn't work right. You look at the original 1950s Disney film, which for all intents and purposes isn't necessarily the most accurate adaptation in the world, but it's still a really great film. And you look at how imaginative that is compared to Tim Burton's vision of Alice in Wonderland, where basically he's taken elements of all these different franchises. He's taken stuff from Lord of the Rings, he's taken stuff from Narnia, and attempts to infuse it with Lewis Carroll's story. The problem with that is that Alice in Wonderland is not freaking Narnia. It's supposed to be Alice in Wonderland. There are so many things here that are just wrong-headed. They're just completely... Whoever wrote this, I'm not going to put all the blame on Tim Burton, because honestly, he doesn't write his own movies 90% of the time. This was written by a screenwriter for Tim Burton. Whoever came up with this concept, on the whole, deserves to be fired. This is one of those cases where I sat there in the cinema going, seriously, this is how you're going to take a fresh look at Alice in Wonderland? What you do is, when you're doing a modern take on something, when you're remaking something or doing a sequel to it, or a pseudo-sequel in this particular case, what you do is that you take the old story and you tell it from a different perspective and make it deeper or try to find a different meaning inside of it. You don't just add action sequences, which is all this does. It adds all of these different elements that are only there so that Alice can ultimately have a really cool battle at the end with the Mad Hatter, and everybody's going to have a cool Narnia-like sword fight, and that's it. And that's not Alice in Wonderland. I'm going to defend it on this case. That is not Alice in Wonderland. And if you're going to do that, you can at least make it good. This is dull. This is Dolesville all the way through. There's no reason to connect to any of these characters, mostly because they've lost their insanity. Alice in Wonderland, this universe, the entire point is that it doesn't make sense. To have a resistance group and to have all of this sort of political backbone takes away everything that makes Alice in Wonderland great, which is the insanity, the unpredictability. When Alice goes down into Wonderland for the first time, you have no idea what the hell is going to happen to her. In this particular case, you're like, yeah, Alice is going to save the day. Everybody's going to live happily ever after, and then she's going to learn some kind of wonderful life lesson that's going to change her life. This is not Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll didn't write Alice as some kind of heroine that comes in and saves the day for a generic fantasy story. He told little skits that were barely connected by a plot thread. What you could do is thicken that plot thread and keep the same sort of mythos that he had going, instead of just completely trashing it and rewriting everything and pulling crap out of your butt like what Tim Burton did. I could go on and on and on here. Johnny Depp, of course, gave a pretty good performance. Of course he did. He's Johnny Depp. Although, gosh, this is one of those particular cases where I would have wished he had stepped down. Johnny Depp is one of my favorite actors, and I understand that he and Tim Burton have kind of like this lovey-dovey kind of relationship here, where every single movie Tim Burton does now has Johnny Depp involved in it in some way. I just wish he would have looked at the script and said, maybe next time, Tim, I'm really not for this bastardization. Anyways, I'm going to take a deep breath and try to forget this movie ever happened. This is... My profile is great, and I am signing out. I'm so used to saying gotta love breath, but kudos and peace. Oh, and by the way, you guys, you should look up a guy called Neverchris. He does really good video game reviews. I've been listening to him a lot lately. He's commented on some of my stuff, so yeah, go check out his profile. Peace.